You are listening to Beyond Orders, a podcast about military spouses who are done shrinking themselves to fit someone else's story. I'm your host, Michelle Penczak, CEO of Squared Away. Today's guest is someone who embodies resilience and grace in a way that will absolutely stop you in your tracks. Tiffany McCawley joined Squared Away in 2020, but long before that, she endured a tragedy no parent should ever have to face: the loss of 2 of her 5 children in a heartbreaking accident in 2015. This episode is about what comes next. Not the polished, perfect version, but the honest human journey of learning to live, lead, and find purpose again. Tiffany's here to share how she went from surviving to thriving, how her work brought new meaning, and what it really looks like to hold space for both grief and growth. Let's get into it. Tiffany, I was just saying how excited I am to see your face on camera and just have you here joining me on our brand new podcast.
Well, I am really excited to be here, and I'm excited to see your face. And I'm excited you're back here in Eastern North Carolina, even though we haven't connected in person yet, but very excited that you're back.
I know, just down the road, we're going to find time. We will get it on the calendar.
That would be amazing.
So for those out there just getting to know you, can you tell us a little bit about who you are, not just what you do, but who you are as a person, a mom, and a woman?
Well, as a person, most importantly, I love the Lord. I follow Christ in everything that I do in my life, and it is my anchor. As a mom, I've been a lot of things as a mom. I have been a homeschooling mom. I've been a working mom. I've been a lot of things, but I hope that at the end of the day, the mom that I am is the mom that makes my children feel like they're the most important thing in my life, and that I would do anything for them. I feel very blessed to have the children that I have, both here and with the Lord. What was the other thing you asked me? Sometimes I lose track. You said as a mom. As a
mom, a person, and as a woman, but I think you hit all the wickets. Okay. No, that's a great intro to who you are, and very much just captures you as a human, and I love that. Uh-huh. So, if you're open to it, would you share what happened in 2015 and how that moment changed your life?
So in 2015, Charles, my husband, he was eligible to retire, but was given an opportunity to PCS to Parris Island after having been here in Eastern North Carolina for 5 years, and to take over the finance office at Parris Island, which was an unexpected dream that we didn't know we had. We kind of really just wanted to stay here if we could, homesteading, because we had 5 kids and we built a home. But that opportunity was presented, and we weren't ready to hang up our combat boots and dog tags yet and ball dresses. So we decided to take orders, and we went about, the racetrack hamster wheel that is a military move. And with 5 kids and trying to live on base, it was pretty stressful. So when we were probably 2 months out from the actual move itself, packing out our house, we decided that we would have our children go visit my husband's family in Texas. I had never done anything like that. Anytime I'd ever left my kids, it was for 3 or 4 days, and we went somewhere. I think we'd done that twice since we had our youngest son. Once for a homeschool convention, exciting life. And then once to go visit my brother in Florida. We sent my husband, took them to the Raleigh airport the morning of June 7th to fly to Texas. My in-laws picked them up. On June 11th, my children went to my brother-in-law's farm And 4 of my 5 children were taken on a ride on a UTV. And for people who don't know what that is, a UTV is like a big version of a ATV. It's called a side-by-side a lot of times, and you can seat multiple people on them, and they are powerful vehicles. They generally tend to go somewhere between 45 and 60 miles an hour, and they should only be driven by an adult. And unfortunately, some decisions were made that resulted in an accident. And my son, Sam, he was 5. He was killed instantly. And my youngest daughter, Mercy, she was 6. She was injured badly in the accident. And she was life flighted to, oh my gosh, I can't remember the name of the hospital. I think I blocked it out. Anyway, she was life flighted to a hospital in Houston. Thankfully, Eva and Charlie, Eva was not injured at all. Charlie was injured, but thankfully not gravely, as were Sam and Mercy. So we got the call that as a parent, you just don't ever think you're going to get. And when you get it, you think you're in a, I don't know, an alternate universe. Before, when you asked me to do this, I actually ended up going back and reading some of my blog, and I don't do that very often because it's really painful. And it opens a lot of doors that I keep closed. But I could never, in all of my wildest nightmares, have ever imagined what we went through in 2015, ever. On that day, when we got on the plane to go to Texas, Mercy had been life flighted, and we didn't know, if she, how she was or anything. And we were, of course, flying out of Eastern North Carolina, there's no direct flights. So we had to fly through Charlotte and, run through the airport and all the things. And I just remember running through that airport and thinking to myself, no one's calling me. No one's calling me. And knowing somewhere in my spirit that they weren't calling me because they couldn't tell me that she was okay.
Yeah.
So, it just, everything that we knew, everything that we were, as a family, as individuals, everything changed in that moment. And when we got to Texas, we got there very late and found out, standing in an airport pickup lane, that my daughter had gone home to be with the Lord. Longest car ride ever was from that airport to the hospital, where we had to tell one of our other daughters. Eva already knew, but Charlie did not. So it was just, I don't know that there are adequate words to describe the before and after of something like that. But it changes everything that fundamentally.
No, it's fine. I wouldn't even know the words to choose to describe having a moment like that in my life, where your whole entire universe just gets flipped upside down. And I remember when I first heard your story, and it was about a month after I found out I was pregnant with my oldest, Sawyer. Mm-hmm. And my husband, Sean, was away in California, and I just started bawling like a baby and praying for you and your family. It was something that I held very close to my heart for a long time. And I don't know if I ever told you this, but I struggled really hard with postpartum depression with Sawyer. And every time I had to take a moment and walk away, I thought, you are so blessed to have this baby because you can go in there and pick him up at any moment.
Mm-hmm.
There are some mamas that don't have that option now. And I would instantly think of you in those moments. It's kind of what brought me back. I don't know if I ever told you that, but it made me really appreciate even going through the hard moments with my boys. And so thank you. I mean, I know that sounds really crazy, but it really hit home to me what a blessing it is to have my boys here with me, even though not every moment is a great moment,
Right.
as a parent.
Right.
But I took your story with me for a lot of years, and I just can't imagine how did you begin to even process this loss, and what did healing look like back in those early days for you?
Like the first 3 months were, I think they mostly felt like some kind of waking nightmare, especially because the circumstances surrounding everything is we had literally just shut the doors on our ABF trailers and our house was empty. Our very large house that used to be brimming with children and stuff and all that was just empty. And so when we left to go to Texas, it was, literally just throwing things in suitcases and racing out the door. And so when it was time to come back, we didn't go home. We went we came to Emerald Isle, which is where we live now, which is, 15 minutes from Swansboro. But this whole community this community is insane. It's so loving and faith-filled and generous. And so when we got back, I didn't want to go home. I didn't want to step foot in my house. There was, I didn't want to get in my car. Like, our friend was one of our pastors. And I just remember telling him, please don't have their seats in the car. Like, I don't want to see that. I can't see that. So we spent the 3 months of the summer. So we came back, I don't remember the date exactly. I think it was the 14th. I think we were in Texas for 5 days or something. We came back and we had a place to stay over off of Coast Guard Road. And that's where we stayed for a week to plan the memorial service. And then we moved to another place off Coast Guard. And then I had a friend who lived in Pine Knoll Shores, and she loaned us her house for 6 weeks. Because it was such an unknown, it was like, I don't think the Marine Corps knew what to do. Like, they were like, okay, what do we do here? Like, do we make this family go? Do we let them stay? Do we
There's
give them
no process for them?
No, there was no process. And honestly, I have to just give so much credit to the people in leadership in Charles's chain of command, people that weren't in his chain of command, but that we knew, that knew people. And it really were given a choice, like, do you want to take these orders, or do you need to stay here for the sake of your family? And so we said we were going to stay here. But that was like a 6 or 8 week long conversation process back and forth. So we were literally like moving places constantly. And so we're grieving. We're not home. There was a constant revolving door of people. And then we bought this house that I'm sitting in right now because we were just, I don't know what it was. There was something about being here on the island, close to the water. it was almost like a totally separate world from being in Swansboro. And there was something about being at the ocean, the salt water, the beach. It is calming. Not that there was a lot of calm in that first, a lot of years, but the only way we knew to keep going was to just get up and keep going. And I reread a lot of my blog posts before, like I said, this conversation, and there were so many of them where I just said, I'm still standing. I'm not sure how, but I'm still standing, and I'm going to keep standing. I just might fall over a lot. I'm going to fall down. I'm going to need somebody to pick me back up and help me, or my kids or my husband. And, we had so much support, so much love, from, my family, friends who were like family, our homeschool community, our church community. But it was like, there's not a formula,
That would be a hard formula to put together.
It's in a really awful twist. A close friend at the time, very close, lost her son a week after I lost my kids. And, just walking through those seasons with another person who was going through it at the exact same time. Her son was much older than my children. Circumstances were different. But just how each of us grieved. So we each grieved differently, and then unfortunately, the longer you're living with child loss, the more people you either meet or become members in your really shitty club, they, and it takes your breath away every time. And it takes you back to that moment. I had a close friend lose her daughter it's been 3 years. And I literally felt when the words were spoken that she had passed, I felt like somebody was ripping my insides out again. I think you learn to move, but there's never, you don't ever leave it behind. It's never gone, never goes away. I actually read one of the posts I read that I wrote said that I hated the word healing. And I hated it because I think it's been 10 years. This is 10 years. And it was a hard June. I'm thankful that we waited until July 1st to do this, because June just is not, my brain doesn't work right. I don't fire on all cylinders.
To be fair, for whatever reason, I wasn't even thinking when I asked you to join me that it was in June, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's 10 years this month.
Mm-hmm.
And wow, I assure you, I did not plan that.
No. I don't think you at all. It was funny. I sat there last night at June 30th and I thought, thank you, Lord, that this month is over, and it's like July 1st every year I wake up and I can say, okay, I'm one step closer to my children. But I also don't ever want to be so focused on being one step closer to my children that I'm not present with the children that I have here. So it's a very delicate balancing act. And healing is just something that, I think that healing for me means being able to find joy without feeling guilty. Mm-hmm. I wish I could say that it means finding joy without jealousy, but it doesn't, because I wish it did. But I don't think I'll ever stop being jealous of my friend who has the family that I had, even though, it's just not, I don't know that I'll ever get there, but I think healing is just being able to find joy without guilt.
And
Yeah.
it's so funny that you say that because my cousin passed away when he was
Mm-hmm.
10. He was
Mm-hmm.
2 weeks older than me.
Oh.
And my aunt has always said living without Jamie is
Mm-hmm.
like trying to live without your left arm.
Mm-hmm.
It's not easy. It's a
Mm-hmm.
struggle, but somehow you do it
Yeah.
every day. And I think the jealousy, and don't get me wrong, I'm sure I don't have every emotion covered, but my aunt has said the same thing that, we turned 38 this year. I can't believe it's 38.
Mm-hmm.
But she said that every milestone that I hit, she knew that he would be hitting that milestone.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really hard in a lot of ways to watch me grow up and start a family knowing he would have been right there with me. So
Mm-hmm.
I could definitely see how that would be a struggle.
It's, and you kind of, you don't really know when it's going to like smack you right in the face. I read an analogy from another grieving mom about grief being like a bear trap, where it just like you step on it and it's like, it just
Yeah.
smack you, and then it gets a hold of you and it's got its claws in you, and you just don't know. I mean, recently I went to a graduation party for a young woman who had been buddies with Mercy and Dance, and I mean, it just, I celebrate her milestone while still standing there wishing that Mercy was celebrating it with her, and I went on vacation recently with our family up to New England, and I found myself still counting my children. I was still counting them, and I was still looking, and it's been 10 years. I'll never stop looking. I'll never stop wondering. I think it's just, there's what's the meme? Grief is the price of love, or grief is a place of love with grief is love with nowhere to go. It's pretty accurate. It's a pretty accurate assessment, and it is, extraordinarily challenging to keep putting one foot in front of the other and not just kind of crawl into a hole and not interact. And I know people who've done that. I had and then I know people who haven't. There's some people who can somehow manage to get back up and put one foot in front of the other, and some people just can't. And every grief journey is unique and different for a bereaved parent. When I was a teenager, my twin cousins, who were one was like a father to me. He was just an amazing human. The other one I was also very close with, died within a year of each other, and they were adults.
Wow.
I remember sometimes people in my family would get frustrated with my aunt, and she was not the easiest person to love. She had a hard shell, and she was gruff, but she also loved fiercely. And man, I wish that I could look her in the face now and just say, I'm sorry if I wasn't ever compassionate or was impatient with you. And that happens far more quickly and easily than most people think it will. There is always the expectation that there's a silver lining, or you're going to get better, or you're going to go back to normal. And there is no normal. There's not a new normal. There is a new normal, but you're never normal.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Oh, yeah. Your new normal, quote unquote, reality.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. And it's, so I don't know if that really answers your question about healing, but, I still don't know if I love the word, but I do think that there comes in our hearts for me and for my family, if you seek the Lord, and you seek his peace, that's the only thing that I think has given me any measure of peace, is his peace. It's not mine, because I'm still mad. I'm still pissed. I'm still pissed. I'm still mad. I'm like, what the hell? Why is this my life? Why am I the grieving mom? Why am I the one who has to stand over here and pretend like I'm okay at a baby shower or at a graduation or a party? But I do have his peace that ensures me, I'm going to see my kids again, and nothing is wasted.
Yeah.
Nothing. And it's just like you said, my story resonated with you and made you pause in a difficult time in your life. I know that all of my other friends who've walked through this awful set of circumstances their stories have influenced people and have had an impact. And I guess that would be something that if I have to find something to be thankful for, it would be that.
Oh, yeah. I probably couldn't even add up how many times I had to say that to myself over the past 9 years of being a mama. It's just, they're here. They're not in heaven. Be thankful. And it just kind of gave me that gratitude of, okay, I can do this. I can do this. Even though it's hard, I can do this. So switching gears a little bit.
Okay.
Otherwise, I'm going to run out of tissue over.
I know I need one too.
What drew you to Squared Away in 2020? And what were you looking for at that point in your life?
All right. So I'm going to be 100% honest here. Desperation.
You know what? That's why Squared Away was started. So we're on the same page.
I mean, it was it would take 16 podcasts that are 12 hours each to capture all the crap that happened between 2015, when my kids passed, and when I sent that desperate email sent to Kelsey in January of 2020. And so Charles had retired. We had taken over a business from some friends. It had gone well for a period of time, and then it went so bad that it wrecked us financially. It just destroyed our life financially. And my husband was also at a point of, I think probably his lowest point since the kids had passed. He had spent 4.5 years trying to survive. There is a lot I'm trying to say this diplomatically. There was a lot that he had to deal with in relation to family relationships that kind of destroyed his heart in a lot of ways. And then, he retired and didn't really expect to. He did expect to after we didn't take orders, but it just, things did not. So many things happened, and he was trying to grieve as an active duty Marine, 2 children. That it just was it was a mess. He needed a minute.
Yeah.
So he decided, we prayed about it and said, let's see if you can go back to school. So that's what he did. I sent you guys that email, and I remember sending it and telling Charles and saying, I just sent this email. I don't know what's going to happen. They probably think I'm crazy. They're not going to answer me. And I mean, I think you guys answered me in an hour. I mean, it was, it was so fast. But what I so appreciated was that you didn't just say, okay, we'll just, whatever. You said, get me your resume. Or Kelsey, I think it was Kelsey that said, get me your resume.
Kelsey had asked for your resume.
And I just remember telling her, like, I don't have a resume. I have been a homeschooling stay-at-home mom who like pops in and out of little gigs here and there for 20 years or however long, it had been, 15 years, whatever. And she's like, but you can do it. So then I went to the Hive. I went to the Hive Mind, which is the spouses group. And I said, I need somebody to help me write a resume. Because I literally, my brain was fried. And so I ended up working with another spouse. Her name was Sarah. And she was incredible. We talked and she helped me see my value. Like she helped me see what I was good at. And I went, oh my gosh, I actually could do a lot of things. It kind of like, it forced me to evaluate what I'm good at and put it on paper. And doing that was probably one of the best things I've ever done for myself. And then you interviewed me and we cried a lot. There was a lot of crying.
So that was, I think I was actually in the car. I think I was taking Sawyer to a doctor's appointment and I was like, oh, I have to talk to Tiffany McCawley. Like I have to talk to her. And I was like, yes, we cried. It was great. You came on board. Sean came home from work that evening and I said, you will never in a million years guess how the world just came amazingly full circle. And he said, well, what happened? And I told him that you had applied to Squared Away. And he goes, are you for real? He said, if that is not a God wink, I don't know what is. And I was like, because he knew, he was like, I've talked to him several times about how I would pull myself out. And he was like, that is such an amazing moment. He was like, number one, I hope you didn't tell her that. You're going to freak her out a little bit. I said, maybe one day I'll share that with her. But it was just so full circle and exactly at the right moment and in God's time.
All in God's timing. And that's what I just, it's funny. I think about that and I literally am sometimes a little gobsmacked. So the day that we were going to do the interview last week, I got up and I sat down in my chair to do my devotional. And I wish I had my Bible in here. I think it was Psalm 84, I think is what it was. And it literally, actually, I'm going to go get my Bible. I got to get this. Okay. So, I sat down and I was, a little, I don't speak as well off the cuff as I used to. I have a little bit more social anxiety. So I think I was anxious and I sat down and read my devotional, did some stuff. And then I've been reading through the Psalms. And that day was Psalm 81. And I'm reading it. And I had, at some point in the last however many years I've had this Bible, I said, I underlined, open wide your mouth and I will fill it. And then I wrote, he will give me words to speak. I don't know when I wrote that, but that was the psalm that I read the day that you and I were supposed to talk. I was like, I literally, I felt like, it felt like a burning bush, honestly. I always joke that I'm, waiting for the proverbial burning bush whenever I'm making a decision. And when I look at the tapestry, and I've written about this some in my blog, but I'm just, it's like shock and awe, it's really just is. You're just gobsmacked at how the Lord weaves and works and brings things into your life. Because when I think about the past 5 years, it's actually been 5.5. since, you guys brought me on at Squared Away.
So wild.
I'm just gobsmacked at what the Lord has worked for me and for our family. It's like your husband saying, it's a God wink, sometimes there's God winks, and then there's holy 2x4s, and there's burning bushes, and
we see lots of God winks here lately. And I think, well, my dad passed away in November, so I feel like he's sending me lots of God winks over the past 6 months, and it's very much in your face because me and my family are Christians. We are very much believers, and I have had a lot of talks with God about I need you to be very clear when you're trying to show me something. And sometimes I might miss it, so you might have to whack me with something or point me in the right direction. But it's such a unique feeling when you have that. And I wish I could put it into better words than absolutely incredible.
I think it's just, I don't know. I don't know that I have words for it. I think, one of my most, probably treasured, memories was, when we lived in California, when we first moved there, Eva was 4 and Charlie was 1, and I was pregnant, and, I lost that baby, into my second trimester, and it was traumatic and hard. And I was a practicing Catholic, and I was, I loved my church, and I had this friend who invited me to a Bible study. And I was like, oh, sure. Yeah. I'd never done a Bible study ever in my lifetime. I had done, like a lot of faith-based things through like Catholic Women of the Chapel and, my church and all that kind of stuff, but never done an actual, like Bible study where you've got all these things sticking out, And so I ended up joining this Bible study, and part of it was a Bible study called Believe in God. And part of it was that you had to do a timeline of and like really see where the Lord had worked or provided, and it was eye-opening to me at that point in my life. And I've done it again since then. And I think I want to do it again, because when I look back, I think sometimes I'm afraid I won't remember anymore. Grief, that's something I will say, is that grief brain is a real thing, especially for parents. I think it is a real, the physical toll of grief on your body and your brain is very tangible. Is very real. And so sometimes I'm afraid I'm not going to remember, all the beautiful things. I wish I had kept writing. I kind of stopped, and I write maybe once or twice a year now on my blog. Around the time I went to work for Squared Away. It doesn't have anything to do with it.
We kept you busy.
You killed my blog. No, you didn't kill my blog, but I probably needed a break, but I am sad that I didn't capture more of it, but I've still journaled some over the years, but just to see, how the Lord works is, humbling, very humbling. And that's how I got Squared Away.
Exactly. It was all in God's winks and timings.
Yes.
It's incredible. What was it like stepping back into professional work?
Oh.
While you had your personal stuff with you as well?
Hard. It was very hard, but I will, again, in God's providence. So my former boss, he's since left the company, moved on to other things. gosh, was he a gift? Just a gift, a friend, a great boss, just an amazing human, to be quite honest, who took a chance on I won't say old because I'm not old, but a middle-aged mom who hadn't been in the workforce. And it was very challenging. I will never forget the week of training with Squared Away. I had to do the task where you got to do stuff overseas with the party and the boat and the liquor and all that. And I was like, oh my God.
Oh, yeah.
I can't
Shout
do
out
this.
to the chain story. Yes.
Oh my gosh. It was something else. But let me tell you, it really, it was hard, but it was good. It was I think at that time in my life, I needed a different direction. My kids, so we had homeschooled, straight homeschooled until the year after the accident. We went all the way through 1 year after. And then it just was like sandpaper, being home all day, with 3 instead of 5, and being in our same circles was really hard. Our homeschool met at our church, and it was just a lot. So we ended up joining, up with some other families and being part of the initial class of Grace Classical School in Jacksonville, which was a hybrid homeschool. So my kids went from me planning all of their curriculum, all of their lessons, doing all of the teaching, to they would go to school 2 days a week, and then they were home with me 3 days a week. So it was more of a, I was instructing Max, but Charlie and Eva were doing more of the, their work on their own. And so everything had changed. So I think I needed a change. And by the time I started working for Squared Away, Eva was at Gramercy. So she was in school full time, 5 days a week. And so I think it was necessary, but it was hard. It was a lot of balancing act. And I think, in the Lord's kindness, he gave me a boss that I actually ended up sharing. I don't remember how this happened. I was on a phone call with my boss, and I don't remember what he asked me. And I told him about the kids. So then he cried. I'm crying, like, the whole thing. And then he ended up reading my blog, and it just was he was the right person to be a safe space in a professional world, that I wasn't used to. I mean, I hadn't worked, since Eva was a baby. I had taught music classes. I had organized things, homeschooled, but, working professionally, I hadn't done that in a long time. And, it was hard, but it was good. It was a good, I won't say it was a distraction. I think it was a good, new path. Yeah.
Yeah. I will say you had a gem of a client, and then you also received a buyout from that client that same year. That's the fastest we have ever seen a client buyout, because I think you came on board the beginning of 2020, and then by the time I had moved to California in July, you had done your buyout.
Yeah, it was in May. He did my buyout in May. And I just, I was so, I think, gobsmacked that somebody thought I was that valuable, that they would do that. I just didn't expect it. And, I was very thankful. It was really, I really did. I had the best boss, just the best. I miss him a lot. He's, like I said, often doing other things, but, I occasionally get to catch up with him, and he really, had a hand in helping me make a transition that I never expected to make, because I always thought that I would be home. I didn't expect to be back in the professional space. And it's been a journey.
How did that impact your confidence from going from I don't have a resume
Uh-huh.
to getting a buyout with your client to come on board with them as a company within 4 months.
It was it made me feel great, to be honest. Like, I just remember telling my husband, like, Doug's going to buy out my contract. I just was, I was just gobsmacked and so thankful, just really thankful. And I think that's how I've always felt, about having the opportunity to work with Squared Away, and then to have it be that launching pad for me. And I remember being nervous when Doug said he wanted to buy out my contract. I was like, oh gosh, are they going to be upset or disappointed or whatever? And you guys were so amazing and supportive. And I remember the Zoom call where you announced it, and it just made me feel so good that, like, you were happy for me, that, like, you had helped me get, like, you had given me this opportunity, which then led to another opportunity and set me on a new path. And that was amazing. Like, I loved it.
And that's something that I try and tell everybody who comes through Squared Away. We don't have to be your forever, but we can help you get to where you want to be, whether that's a different career path. If you want to go full-time with your client, we can help you get there. And we're always going to celebrate it. And we're going to celebrate the opportunities, because that's what we're here for. We're not here to stifle you in any capacity. We want to have more Tiffany McCawley come through. And it's just such an honor to be a part of your journey.
Oh, well, it's an honor to be a part of Squared Away. I always, honestly, I always give credit, always, like, that's what gave me my start, and got me back into a professional world that I just never thought I'd be a part of. And the encouragement, I think one of the things that I loved was the professionalism mixed with genuine care about who we are as people, about really elevating military spouses to see their value, because you get devalued everywhere you go. It's just, it's so frustrating. I remember when we moved to Okinawa and I had established a successful music business. I taught kinder music. And then it was so successful that MCCS wanted me to partner with them. And so I shouldn't say this. I, like an idiot, I did. And I don't want to be ugly, because I know MCCS does a lot of things, but at the time in Okinawa, they just didn't have good administration. And I remember feeling so frustrated that I just felt, and I felt like they didn't see my value, or they saw it, but then they devalued me the second they got the opportunity, because it's like, oh, well, she'll just be out the door and we'll pull another spouse in. And
I think we've all had our MCCS run-ins at some point or another.
Yes. And I think it's just, like that, it's so frustrating to, it's hard enough to start over, like with putting your stuff in your house or putting your kids in a new school. But then if you are in the professional space, if that's something that you desire, or, whatever you want to do, whether it's full-time, part-time, on your own, starting over every 2 to 3 years is exhausting. And for some people, it's every year. I mean, good golly.
It is a labor of love every single day.
Yes.
We've been doing this rodeo for 13 years and no end in sight at the moment, but it's exhausting mentally, physically, emotionally, everything.
Yes. And that, having, I think for the spouses that are able to, have something, whether it's Squared Away or something like it, where they have that one thing that they know is a constant, it takes that pressure off, and it gives a little, especially because there is a ton of financial pressure. I mean, there's such a stupid dystopian view of military life. I mean, I remember having some guy I went to high school with like, well, you knew what you were signing up for and you get paid for all this stuff and blah, blah, blah. And I thought to myself, well, I won't tell you what I thought to myself because it's not appropriate to say on podcast. Well, it probably would be, but I just was so offended. And I thought, you have your head in the sand. You have no idea what you're talking about. Starting over every 1 to 2 to 3 years is exhausting. And so having a constant is really a blessing.
Absolutely. And I think we've all heard people say that phrase, and we've all thought some not so PC responses to it. And being a military spouse is just controlled chaos, mostly controlled by us, chaos by all the other parties involved. Just saying. But I wish people could live a day in the life at some point. Just go do good things. Give us your feedback.
Yes, I would agree with that.
Okay, so Jordan actually started this. She said that I had to ask everyone this question.
Okay.
Coming on to the podcast. What does reinvention mean to you now?
Opportunity. Rebuilding of confidence. Uncharted territory, and probably new dreams, I guess. New or goals, maybe new dreams, new goals, new. Yeah, that's it. That's what it means, I think, to me.
I like it. You and our previous guest, Rachel, she also received a buyout. You two had very similar answers, which is really funny because you two have a very similar personality. So I might have to introduce you guys just so you can touch base. Well, thank you so much again for sharing your amazing story. I'm waiting for you to write a book one day.
I would like to write a book. I would. Reading it's funny, when I read my blog, sometimes I'm like, who wrote that? I think because I haven't written much in the last 5 years. And probably out of self-preservation. What was that? There was a question that you had on this list that I thought about a lot.
I didn't hit all the wickets, so we can definitely pull it out.
It was, here it is. Wait a minute, where was it? It was something about, what do you wish people knew about grief? Where was that?
It was one of the first ones. What do you wish people knew about grief?
I think that,
I'm sorry, what surprised you about grief that you think more people should understand?
That it's always there. And that it really, truly 100% does shape your experience and how you interact with the world. And I think that it's really hard to put that into words. And I think I got tired after about 5 years of trying to put it into words, that I just got tired. You just get tired of putting one foot in front of the other and trying to get people to understand when they can't possibly understand. And then people get impatient and tired of your grief, of your sad. They distance themselves, whether they will admit to it or not. And so it's just, I think I would like to find a way to write about that. So maybe I will write a book.
Hey, I will buy the first copy. Sign me up and hopefully get you to sign it or something. That would
Well,
be amazing.
I would probably just give you the first copy because I follow a lot of different writers, faith-based writers, and actually Heidi St. John is one of my favorite. She's a homeschool mom. I've seen her at conferences and stuff like that years ago. And she actually just recently had on her podcast that I listen to pretty much weekly or a couple times a week, where she was considering doing a writer's retreat. And I was like, oh.
It could be another sign. You might have to do that. I'm going to poke you about it in a few weeks and be like,
okay,
hey, you know
send
that,
to email her. Yes. And Proverbs 31 does a big conference, but I went to that once and I felt like it was too big. Like I need something small, where,
same.
I could probably run around in my pajamas or something.
Hey, I am flip-flops and yoga pants all day long. So those are my people. So you just got to find your people.
Oh, yeah. I know. It's funny. I put on a nice shirt, but I'm wearing my American Eagle comfy pants and flip-flops.
I have on running shorts and flip-flops right now with a very professional top.
Yes, with a nice, like my cabbie top here. Let me shout out my cabbie girl, my Kathy and my Abby that I buy my cabbie from.
I like it.
Yes.
So how can people support or connect with the causes that matter to you? Because I am going to drop these links in our show notes, and obviously I'm going to link your blog so everybody can read your thoughts.
Well, so I picked 4 causes that I sent to you, and I picked While We're Waiting, which is a ministry by Brad and Jill Sullivan that has, they lost their daughter to cancer. I think it's probably been 15 years. And they started this ministry out of their home hosting retreats, and it has grown to be somewhat nationwide. They're still growing. It's actually I've never been able to attend one of their retreats, and it's a dream of mine to be able to go with my husband and maybe someday start a bereaved parents support group here in Eastern North Carolina, because we don't have one. And
really,
no,
I had no idea how. Wow,
I know
that's surprising.
It's shocking and it's sad. We did have, so for first 2 years, our very good friends that lost their son 2 years before we lost our kids, that went to church with them, very close. They did a small support group that we were a part of, and we were so thankful. They're dear, wonderful people. And I think that it must have been incredibly hard for them to step into those shoes only 2 years out to support us. And I'm so grateful. So that's something, While We're Waiting, is very close to my heart. I also shared Backpack Friends, which is a ministry here in Eastern North Carolina that feeds over 1,000 children a week during the school year. Some of my good friends started that ministry, I don't even know how many, probably 12 or 14 years ago. And it has grown exponentially, and they work tirelessly to feed these kids. And it's a really amazing thing that they do. I also put Let Them Live, it's a pro-life ministry that comes alongside women who find themselves struggling during their pregnancies. They partner with women to encourage them to choose life, but they also equip them. So they provide for their needs financially. They partner with them to help them find jobs and places to live. It's a really, really wonderful ministry. And then the last one that I put on is the Ride Safe Foundation. And that came to me via a Facebook message a year ago. Kristen, who founded the organization after she lost her nephew in an accident that was pretty much as bad as my kids. She's a lifelong motorsports professional. And so she founded this organization to educate people on the appropriate use and safety with UTVs and ATVs. And she's also actively participates in lobbying for legislation. So each one of those is important to our hearts as a family. My children loved the Lord, and every life is precious. So, let them live would definitely be, would honor them. Saving lives through the Ride Safe Foundation, again, honors them. Providing to other families who've walked this journey, sharing the love of the Lord is really important. And then feeding kids, because I can't imagine how hard that is to know that you have a hungry child and you can't fix that. So, I'm just very thankful. I'm thankful to each of the people that also started these ministries and followed through, because they're rock stars. I mean, running a nonprofit is incredibly difficult and is always an uphill battle. And so I try to support them in any way I can.
I love it. And we will definitely have all of those links in our notes. And I will definitely be checking in the next few weeks about your book. But thank you all for joining us. I am so grateful for being able to have Tiffany on our show today. And we will be in touch with you all soon. Have a good one.